coming on the air with Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine getting closer to NATO's front door after a strike on a Ukrainian base that killed dozens of people just a couple miles from Poland's border. Ahead, the Pentagon says Russia's expanding its range of attacks, a sign of how frustrated the Kremlin is with this war. Plus, the feds are now helping out on the search for a man who's accused of attacking others experiencing homelessness in two different cities, with one attack happening while the victim was in his sleeping bag. Why police in New York and here in D.C. think they're looking for the same guy. We're also live in China, where a new COVID strain has just triggered huge citywide lockdowns. Why this so-called stealth Omicron variant might make it harder to get a new iPhone here in the U.S. We'll thread that needle in a bit. And a new dip in oil prices may mean the same for gas prices. The new moves may be as soon as tonight to get relief for millions of people out in California. Plus, we go behind the scenes on how Russian disinformation can spread here in the U.S., even ending up on Fox News. How a reporter uncovered the truth behind the lies in tonight's backstory later in the show. Hey, I'm Hallie, and just now the Pentagon saying it is clear that Russia is expanding its target set, they call it. That's military speak for expanding where it's attacking. That's after Russia went after a Ukrainian base that's right on the doorstep of the Polish border. We're going to show you some of the aftermath in this video. And listen, a warning, it is hard to watch. This is it here. You can see the smoke billowing up. Ukraine says at least 35 people have died. You're looking at a spot about 20 miles from Poland. In other words, about 20 miles from potentially drawing the U.S. and other NATO allies into this war. But Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby is trying to downplay the idea that this is some kind of a turning point. Listen.
It doesn't change, I think, our general understanding that they continue to be frustrated by a very stiff Ukrainian resistance, and they are not making the kind of progress on the ground that we believe they thought they would be making by this point.
There's going to be another push for a ceasefire tomorrow after talks between Ukraine and Russia stalled today because of a, quote, technical pause. But look, this is the reality of what that looks like on the ground. Look at this. This is an apartment complex in Kyiv that was getting shelled. Do you see what's in those windows? I mean, those are fires that are starting there. This is right after when emergency crews were working to try to get people out. Our Richard Engel, who's in the city, says there are no military targets close to this building. The United Nations says more than 1,600 civilians are either dead or hurt. NBC News cannot confirm those numbers, but we are just learning that a Fox News correspondent, Benjamin Hall, is one of the people who was hurt, apparently now in the hospital. We also know of at least 2 more deaths. First, the award-winning American journalist, you just saw him, and filmmaker Brent Renaud. Ukrainian authorities say he was killed during a shelling in a suburb of Kyiv. He'd done work for NBC News in the past. And then there's this pregnant woman. We showed you her picture last week after that horrific attack on a hospital, on a maternity ward in Mariupol. A surgeon told the Associated Press that she and her unborn child have both died. All of it. As Volodymyr Zelensky, this man, the Ukrainian president, gets ready to address our Congress Wednesday. We're going to give you the latest from Washington, including our exclusive reporting about President Biden potentially heading to Europe soon and what the White House press secretary just said about that. But I want to start with Matt Bradley. And Matt, you are in Lviv, right? Up until this point, as you and I have had these conversations on the air, one of the things that we've heard from our colleagues who have been in Lviv, from others at NBC News, is that they are a little bit further away from where the attacks were happening. Now, you've got this war moving further west. They're moving closer to where refugees are trying to get out into Poland. Give me a sense of what it's like on the ground.
Yeah, Hallie, I'm not going to lie. I was out traveling in the north of the country when all that happened, that airstrike, a series of airstrikes on that base west of where I am here in Lviv. And when I got here this afternoon, I was expecting to see a city on lockdown. Instead, there was a busker out here in the park playing some jams. We had tons of people walking around. It really didn't feel like a city that was scared. But then again, nowhere in Ukraine until the bombs really started dropping in the middle of cities, felt like that at all. I've been impressed and surprised by how blasé, almost cavalier, a lot of people, Ukrainians, have been since I got here 7 weeks ago. So it's not that much of a surprise that in this city, you'd see people who are still walking around, still leading their day-to-day lives. So, I think that you're still going to be seeing a lot more people in this city because everybody else from the rest of the country is flocking here. And it still is a jumping-off point for going to Poland or to Hungary for those who are trying to escape this war.
Let me pull up some video out of Mariupol, right, which is in a different part of the country from where you are, but it shows some of the damage from up above. You've got this convoy carrying supplies that can't even get to Mariupol, partly because the Russians are just constantly shelling. So, again, this is that video that we're showing you from up above. Talk to me about these so-called safe corridors that there have been discussions about, et cetera. Do they really work, Matt? Are we seeing any evidence that that's actually effective?
We're seeing plenty of evidence that they work, actually. And the Ukrainian government came out and said that 150,000 Ukrainians have actually used these humanitarian corridors to go to safety. And we saw that today from Mariupol itself. Some 60 cars were able to leave, I think it was 160 cars, excuse me, left Mariupol and went to the city of Berdyansk. So they have been successful, but only on some occasions. And Mariupol was one of the places where it was extremely frustrating because they had those abortive attempts for days on end to try to execute a humanitarian corridor. Finally, they were able to do it today. And the city of Sumy in the north, they've had actually several successful humanitarian corridors over the past couple of days. It's getting the humanitarian aid into Mariupol that's been such a big problem.
Right.
And that's something that is still frustrating. There's nearly 500,000 residents in that city, civilians.
Yeah.
They are lacking food, clean water, medicine, and they're still suffering from all that bombardment.
And the Pentagon saying today, that they are trying to continue to get supplies from the U.S. into Ukraine, humanitarian supplies to try to help, military aid too. Matt, I think about that image that we showed a couple minutes ago, right before we brought you into the conversation, that pregnant woman. There have been so many stories of women, infants, babies, right? We saw some reporting on that who have been targeted, or at least casualties, hurt or killed in these attacks. What do you hear from Ukrainians about getting these images out to the world, right? About showing what it is really like on the ground where you are during this war?
Well, it's a good question because, of course, there is this idea of, we journalists as vultures shoving our cameras into people's faces. And I had that experience just the other day. Just across this square, there was a church where there was a funeral for 3 slain soldiers. And there were tons of press there from all over the world. And I got to tell you, we were doing that same thing. We were shoving our cameras into the faces of grieving mothers and sons and daughters, some of them just weeping. They did not seem upset by this. And I got the feeling that they want these images to get out there. And there's a question of privacy when you're talking about a pregnant woman who's wounded. That's a totally different thing. But when you're talking about images of sadness and people who have suffered awful losses, they need that to get out there. And they understand the utility of that because they want their message to be told to the world. One of their messages is that Ukrainians are not just dying for other Ukrainians. They're not just fighting for their own land. And we hear this from everyone we speak to. They think, and they maintain, they are fighting for all of Europe. And they are dying for all of Europe. And that's a message that we've received loud and clear. And I've crisscrossed this country for the past 7 or 8 weeks.
Right.
We hear that all the time. This is not just our fight. This is your fight as well.
I'm glad you're there on the ground, Matt, to be able to tell those stories and be able to bring them to us in Lviv, Ukraine. Matt Bradley, thank you very much. I appreciate it. We're also just learning now that the U.S. is giving a warning to a different country, China, saying, hey, you are going to face sanctions, too, if Beijing decides to give any kind of military help to Russia. Listen to how White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki just framed this.
What we have conveyed and what was conveyed by our national security advisor in this meeting is that should they provide military or other assistance that, of course, violates sanctions or supports the war effort, that there will be significant consequences.
OK, you heard Psaki reference a meeting there. What she's talking about, this guy, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, talking in what a senior administration official calls this intense, this candid 7-hour meeting with his Chinese counterpart over in Rome, mostly on Russia, apparently expressing, quote, deep concern about China aligning with Russia right now, right as Russia and as you're seeing Putin escalate this war in Ukraine. This is after what U.S. officials told NBC News the Kremlin actually asked China for help. Now, listen, China denies it. Russia denies it. China went so far as to say this was disinformation being spread by the U.S., but we've been talking to experts who follow this relationship, right, between Vladimir Putin of Russia, Xi Jinping of China, who say it raises a lot of questions about Russia's plans for what happens next, what China's role is in all this. Somebody who knows this relationship well, who understands how complicated this is geopolitically, is with us now, Andrea Mitchell. Andrea, explain the context here and the backdrop and why, I spoke with someone today who said this is such an important question, the China question with the war in Ukraine. Explain that.
There's really only one figure, one power in the world, President Xi of China, who could possibly, if he were to choose, could possibly pull back Vladimir Putin and saying, hey, this isn't working.
This is too much.
You cannot win.
Yeah.
You've been too isolated, whatever. friend to friend, ally to ally. They just were in Beijing at the opening of the Olympics and cemented the strongest bond yet between Russia and China. That said, China's got a lot of economic stake in this game because the European and U.S. markets are so much bigger than the Russian market, and they don't want to be sanctioned themselves. So this was a 7-hour meeting. You exactly framed it correctly. This is really a tough, long meeting.
Yeah.
And these kinds of things don't usually happen. It was a previously scheduled meeting, I'm told from a background briefing that we had. But that said, 7 hours is a long time, and for them to go face to face, and it was not just about weapons. That's the important thing here. You know that Vladimir Putin had huge reserves in case there were war or whatever. Every country has reserves. He had put away a lot for a rainy day or for an invasion of Ukraine. But that central bank was sanctioned by the U.S. 2 Saturdays ago. And that meant that he couldn't touch the reserves unless he had parked some of it in another country. Aha. In the West, it's sanctioned. In Russia, he can't touch it. There's nothing that he can do.
But what about money that may be sitting?
It's worthless. It's in rubles. But to convert it into dollars or some other currency that might be, useful, especially there are reports that Russia might even default on some loans that are outstanding. Go bankrupt. The whole country of Russia going bankrupt. That may not be immediate. It may be this week. There's a lot of talk in financial circles. So what if they're bailed out by China, for instance? What if that money
throwing them a lifeline,
parked in China?
Right.
And what this meeting was all about was not just weapons. This meeting was about...
No, don't you throw them a financial lifeline either.
Correct.
Right.
And that's what I am told. I asked that question of Ned Price at the State Department briefing right before we had that White House backgrounder, and then John Psaki was in front of the cameras. And he said, we've made it very clear that any country that would attempt to bail out Russia will be met with dire circumstances. Now, is the U.S. going to sanction China?
Yeah, what does dire circumstances specifically mean?
So clearly it's economic circumstances.
Let me ask you this. I know that Russia and China have denied the reporting that the Kremlin perhaps asked China for military help, but what does it suggest to you that is even in the realm of potential possibility here, right? That the Kremlin, that Russia is being met with this resistance in Ukraine? That's
their closest ally right now. I mean, other than Belarus, who is the the subjugated neighbor next door with the the fellow dictator just saying aye, aye, sir, to Vladimir Putin, and the little circle of advisors, none of whom he listens to except for one or two, not even Lavrov, his top diplomat. So he'll listen to President Xi. And what is President Xi going to do? The other thing that Ned Price at the State Department was reminding everybody is that China has had this bedrock belief that sovereignty is, tantamount. Don't
mess with what's going on with our borders,
or Hong Kong or any place else. So he also chose to remind everybody today, what about sovereignty?
Something
There's
that Ukraine...
a little thing like Ukraine's sovereignty.
Exactly. Andrea Mitchell, thank you for that great breakdown of a very complicated issue, but you make it make sense. So thank you.
You bet.
Appreciate you being with us. Speaking of the White House, we just heard from them officially not too long ago that no final decision has been made on whether President Biden will head to Europe sometime soon. We found out earlier today in exclusive NBC News reporting from our team that the White House is considering this, according to sources, preliminarily. The point being, the president would go, potentially, to reassure allies in the region. It comes as the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky, who's been basically begging the West for help, is going to be virtually addressing both chambers of Congress in, less than 48 hours from now, Wednesday morning. It's kind of similar to what happened with the British Parliament last week. Remember, he got a standing ovation there. But what this does is interesting, right? It could, if Zelensky directly makes an appeal to Congress for help, that could up the pressure on the White House if members of Congress throw their muscle behind it to try to do something more. So what does Ukraine want? Well, they want air defense systems. They want those MiG fighter jets that were the center of a potential deal with Poland that ultimately fell through last week. But lawmakers in both the Senate and the House are saying, hey, let's get this deal done. Let's get this down. I want to bring in now from Washington one of our correspondents behind this exclusive reporting, Carol Lee. So, Carol, let me start with this Zelensky address to Congress. We'll be covering it, of course, on Wednesday right here on this show after it happens. But what's interesting is Zelensky, it feels, is being pretty intentional about this. It feels like he understands the dynamic at play here, that some members of Congress, including Democrats, have been using their muscle to try to put some pressure on the White House to do more to help Ukraine. Zelensky seems to get that.
Yeah, absolutely, Hallie. We've seen this before. Other world leaders have done this in other instances, notably then Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu used Congress to try to put pressure on then the Obama White House over the Iran nuclear deal years ago. But this is obviously very different. The stakes are really high. And what we've seen from President Zelensky is that he's willing to go anywhere and use his bully pulpit as much as he possibly can to try to put pressure on the West to give him more weapons, more military aid, and also to ramp up their sanctions on Russia. And he's going to find in Congress a lot of similar minds of people lawmakers who want to do this, particularly when it comes to those jets that the administration has said the president is not going to supply at this particular time. So if you look at recent history, you can see that not only Congress, but also President Zelensky, his pressure campaigns have had an effect on the White House. You just look at the ban on Russian oil that President Biden announced recently. That's something that the White House really rapidly flipped on within a week. They took a different position because of the pressure from Congress and pressure from President Zelensky. So you could certainly see a situation where coming out of this with all the pressure from the Congress, with the President Zelensky addressing lawmakers, that the White House would then be reversing on this. They've left a little bit of space there for them to do that if they want to do that. And you even heard, Hallie, Wendy Sherman, the Deputy Secretary of State, over the weekend saying, look, I get it. I understand why President Zelensky is doing this. If I were him, I would be asking for everything I could possibly get, too. So they understand it, and it could wind up being pretty effective.
Talk to me, too, then, Carol, about this other piece of this, which is the potential, the possibility. I want to be careful in how we frame this here. That President Biden may end up going to Europe. If he did do that, Carol, this would be a huge visit, right? I mean, this would be a very important visit by a U.S. leader to bolster allies. Like, can you handicap it? And I know you have to be careful because you're talking with sources on this, but, like, what do you think the chances are? Why now?
I think the chances are that the president does ultimately wind up going. At the same time, you know, the White House officials that we've spoken with say that nothing has been decided. But look, you know this, having covered the White House as long as you did, a trip like this, particularly overseas, it doesn't just show up on the books. It has to be a really big deal for the president to add a trip abroad to his schedule on really short notice. And so that just underscores how much the White House and this administration feels that now, in terms of timing, they're in this space where the war has gone on. The Russian offensive has been slower to move than they thought. They need to keep the allies on the same page. And as Russia, as we saw in the last 24 hours, is taking hits that are closer to the border with some NATO countries, the allies need reassurance. And so what we're told is that that's what would be the intention of this trip, that one of the places that they're looking at the president potentially traveling to is Brussels. That's important because that's where NATO is located. That's where the European Union is located. And so he could go there and really extend what we've seen from him so far, which is this tele-diplomacy, into more of an in-person, standing side by side with his leaders to show that they're united.
Carol Lee, live for us outside the White House in Washington. Carol, great reporting. Thank you for being with us tonight. Always good to see you. Thanks. In court today, some pretty interesting and, listen, some pretty revealing charges against this guy, rich Russian guy, Russian oligarch, all about illegal political contributions. You're looking at Andrei Murviev. He's accused of wiring $1 million to Rudy Giuliani's former associates, two of them, back in November of 2018 during the midterms. Federal prosecutors in New York say this guy, Murviev, was funneling donations to U.S. election campaigns. Why? And hoping to get legal cannabis licenses, basically, in return. In a statement today, the U.S. Attorney, Damian Williams, said the Southern District of New York is committed to rooting out efforts by foreigners to interfere with our elections. Let me bring in Tom Winter on this. Tom, lay out why we should care, why this was such an interesting revelation here.
Well, I think a couple of things. First off, the fact that this case, this is superseding indictment, so it's included in the original charges, which you just laid out, Hallie, was filed back in 2020. So I'm trying to get to the bottom as to why this became unsealed today, if it's not just a way of continuing to put pressure on Russian oligarchs for something that the federal government says they know has already occurred here. But this individual and really the key thing here, you know, we talked about oligarchs a couple of days last week, Hallie, on this show. this really fits with the way that they operate, which is how they move money around. And they believe that money is the grease to which their businesses can run smoothly. And so they come here to the United States and they don't invent a new playbook. They use the old playbook. And what they've charged him with here is essentially being the money man. And we've known this. He was unnamed in the original charges, and today's today's indictment rather just puts his name on it, essentially saying he provided $1 million to the brother of Igor Fruman, his bank account. And then from there, that money was shifted to Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman for them to distribute to a number of different states, including Florida, Nevada, and California, to provide political donations for, as you said, an effort to get licenses for a cannabis and a marijuana business to get up and off the ground. So basically here you have a foreigner coming in, giving money to individuals, and from there, those individuals provided that money to the candidates. That's what's called a straw donation. It is illegal, and that's why he's on the hook here today.
Tom Winter, live for it. Tom, you're on the oligarch beat now. Our chief oligarch correspondent, I guess. Tom Winter.
Never left it.
For us from 30 Rock. Tom, thank you for that. Interesting stuff. Appreciate it.
You got it.
In other news now, the ATF is joining the hunt for a guy suspected of killing 2 homeless men and hurting 3 others in New York and in Washington, D.C., right here. The latest attacks happened in New York early Saturday, and this is some of the video. It's incredibly disturbing. We're only showing, obviously, a small part of him. You can see one man experiencing homelessness in the sleeping bag. This other guy comes up, kicks him, attacks him, goes after him. This is just a few hours after another person experiencing homelessness was shot in the street. Here in D.C., police say a victim actually survived a shooting back on March 3rd. Look at this map. You can see the places and the dates here. There was another one on the 8th. That person survived. And then the next day, a police officer discovered a tent on fire. Inside, they found the body of another man who the coroner says died from either being shot or stabbed. Emily Aketa joins me now. Emily, talk to me about why police linked these attacks. Why do police think the same person is behind both of these? Both of these cities, I should say, and 5 of these attacks, to be clear.
Yeah, Hallie, I think they're considering the circumstances first and foremost. You look at these were largely seemingly unprovoked attacks targeting sleeping homeless men on the streets. And so they say that this is really why they believe this same guy could be behind 5 separate shootings. And I should add, unfortunately, there is the very real possibility that there could be even more victims that we don't know about. You consider one of the guys shot here in New York. He was found nearly 12 hours after being shot and killed. And so there's this absolute sense of urgency in trying to pin down this shooter. We're seeing police fanning out both in New York and in D.C., trying to make contact with homeless people, urging them to either seek refuge or at least use extra vigilance. We're told that there's going to be a news conference featuring both mayors of New York and Washington, D.C. later tonight. So we will expect to get at least some more insight around the investigation then, Hallie.
Okay, so hopefully they'll have some revelations for us. We'll stay on top of this story. Let me ask you about something else related to the NYPD, because they're also looking for another person who's responsible for an attack in New York over the weekend, a guy with a knife at the Museum of Modern Art, right? Hugely popular tourist spot. Look at this, jumping the reception desk, coming over the top of the desk. Now you see him in the bottom of your screen. Obviously, we're going to stop the video there. You see people throwing things at this guy. They're trying to stop him. What happened here, Emily? What do we know?
Hallie, that video just absolutely stunning. Yeah. You can see the sense of panic, understandably so, through the screen of the employees as that guy scales over the reception desk at the Museum of Modern Art. Police have identified the suspect as 60-year-old Gary Cabana. They say that he is a known person to the museum staff. He frequented the MoMA, and he had recently had his membership revoked, police say, because of 2 recent incidents involving disorderly conduct. And so when Cabana, police say, showed up to the Museum of Modern Art trying to see a film on Saturday, he was turned away, and they believe that's what set him off. That's when he lashed out with this incredible violence and anger. Now, 2 days later, he is still on the run. And Hallie, I will add that he appears to be posting on social media, ranting and commenting on different platforms in the hours since his escape, Hallie.
Emily Aketa, I know you're staying on top of that story, too. Thank you for bringing us both of those. I appreciate it. You're back here in Washington. Traffic at a standstill this afternoon. Worse than usual, a bigger nightmare than usual. Why? Well, check this out. That trucker convoy we've been talking about for several days here, coming into the city, backing up traffic for miles. They're called the People's Convoy. They finally made it into D.C. after almost 2 weeks of driving cross-country from California. You can see them. They were driving through. This is like right near downtown D.C., honking, waving flags. Some of them had signs in their windows, basically backing up the main thoroughfares to get into the city. They're protesting the government's handling of COVID, including vaccine and mask mandates. You know that'll be a mess for folks in Washington for the next couple hours. Still to come. Tens of millions of people in China, again, under lockdown with so-called stealth Omicron to blame. So what is that? And should we be worried about it here at home? Plus, a first date gone quite wrong, why a woman stabbed a man she met online, and what the death of a former Iranian military leader may have to do with it. How's that for a tease? Next. Right now, this new Omicron variant that spreads fast, it's known as stealth Omicron, is behind China's biggest outbreak in 2 years. You talk raw numbers, they're actually pretty small when compared to Europe or the U.S., but they're still the highest in China since the first big outbreak in Wuhan from early 2020. And this stealth Omicron is driving a lot of those cases. It's a descendant, of course, of the Omicron variant. And with more cases, in China come more restrictions. So in Shanghai, schools are closed. In another city, Changchun, each household is only allowed to send one person out every other day to get supplies. Think about that. One person in your house gets to go out every other day to get stuff you need. And then you had Apple's top iPhone manufacturer that just shut down operations at sites in Shenzhen because of the lockdown there. The whole thing could mean chaos for the global supply chain. Janice Mackey-Freyer is joining me live now from Beijing. Janice, what's interesting about this is that we've seen cases go up in China before. So what is different now?
Well, it's the numbers, certainly, but it's also the pace at which this surge is happening, Hallie. We're talking a few thousand new cases every day, which for China and its zero COVID policy is a lot. And so that's why we're seeing the well-known tools in the playbox being put into action here to try to get this under control. They're already seeing pressure on the testing system, too. They're trying to get rapid tests that people can do at home set up here, but they're only now getting it figured out how they're going to sell them, how they're going to record the results. So what we're seeing is officials afraid of pressure on the healthcare system. You have to remember that China still approaches every positive COVID case with the intent of isolating people. So naturally, there's going to be some concern for strain on the healthcare system. And also, there are a lower number of ICU beds per capita here than in most places. So what authorities are trying to do as they work out the testing and work out isolation strategies is that they're targeting mobility. And they're telling people that they should stay put, and in some cases not giving them the choice. And just a small example, Hallie, to send my son to school today, I have to sign the equivalent of what's a promise letter saying that we're going to not travel unless it's absolutely necessary, that we're going to stay away from crowded places, and that we vow to live, quote, a simple life until the outbreak is under control. So these are some of the strategies that the authorities are trying to put into place just to have people stay put.
Right. And it's so interesting, Janice, because it feels a lot like sort of the early days of the pandemic, COVID 1.0, if you will, you know, the early 2020 of what you had to go through and what you did. But we're in a different place now, right? People have vaccines. We know more about the virus itself.
But China is still using the same tools, the same playbook as they were using in 2020, in that they're using lockdowns, quarantines, targeting mobility, contact tracing, QR codes. The issue that they're having now is because the cases are surging so quickly, it's trying to keep all of these things under control, like keeping the finger on the crack in the dam, so to speak, and not trying to overwhelm the healthcare system. In the northern province of Jilin, you mentioned Changchun, the city there, people not able to leave their homes, only one person able to go and get supplies. They've locked down the entire province. It's 24 million people, wow. So people can't leave the province. They can't travel between cities. This is the province that borders North Korea. So what they're trying to do is just have everybody stay put until they can get all of the other pieces figured out. Because they're also looking at the situation in Hong Kong and the way that the cases have exploded there, realizing how quickly the system can be strained. It's so bad in Hong Kong right now that they had to build a temporary bridge bridge from the mainland to Hong Kong in order to rush in extra COVID workers.
What's happening in Shenzhen, where 17 million people live, is also worth talking about, too. A week-long lockdown. This is a huge, as you know, Janice, it's a huge business hub, huge tech hub, has a huge port, right, one of the world's biggest. This is that particular lockdown could have a real ripple effect around the world.
Well, Yantian, the port there, it's the fourth largest in the world. It handles 90% of Chinese electronic goods. So consider that for a moment. And you look at companies like Apple, they will be affected because Foxconn has two major manufacturing facilities there. They're both shut down for now until they get a directive from the authorities saying that they can reopen. They've closed public transit. They've told people to work at home when possible so that they can assess how they can keep these other pieces of the supply chain open. Right now, authorities say that Yantian, the port there, is not affected, but we all know what can happen when there are closures or backlogs at ports here, how that can have a ripple effect down the supply chain. And Yantian is the port that does the most trade with the U.S., so we're bound to see some sort of impact down the line.
Janice Mackey-Fired live for us in Beijing with that. Janice, I know this is a story we're going to be talking more about in the days to come. Thank you so much. Let's get you over now to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, police in Las Vegas say a woman stabbed her date for revenge against U.S. troops. Why? For the 2020 killing of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. The man was able to escape. He was able to get to the hospital. Not clear why he specifically was targeted or how he's doing now. But the 21-year-old woman is charged with attempted murder from that date. Number 2, the U.S. is reportedly paying $2 million a month to protect former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and one of his top aides. The State Department says both face what it calls serious and credible threats from Iran. In a report obtained by the Associated Press, the State Department has paid more than $13 million to protect the two since last August. Number 3, the number of homes worth more than $1 million has doubled since the beginning of the pandemic. That is a new record. According to Redfin, that went from 4.8% in February of 2020 to 8.2% last month. So from 4% to 8%. 7 of the top 10 cities with homes over $1 million are in California. San Francisco, as you might have guessed, at number 1. Number 4, LeBron James is making NBA history again, this time becoming the first player to get at least 10,000 points, rebounds, and assists. There's not even a name for what LeBron did Sunday night. No one's ever done it before. They don't even know what to call it. That is how good he is. Number 5, Pete Davidson is heading to space next week, and if that sounds like an SNL skit, it is not. He is one of 6 passengers on the Blue Origin flight. The other 5 are not cast members on SNL. They are paying customers. The crew is going to spend a few days training in West Texas before that big flight next Wednesday. We'll see if he makes it back in time for Weekend Update. Gas prices are getting a little lower, down for a second straight day Sunday. And guess what? We talked a lot about how oil prices were going up. They are coming back down. They briefly fell just over 8% today to right under $100 a barrel. They settled in right at like 103. Again, if you don't know the context, neither do we. Point being, they were up at like 115 plus. The point is they're down now. Still, the average price per gallon is still about $4.32 for a gallon of gas. We're kind of grading on a curve here. And not too long ago in California, where gas prices are the highest in the country, you had state lawmakers try to force a vote to temporarily suspend the gas tax there. It's 51 cents a gallon, but it didn't work. That failed. Pippa Stevens is here to talk more about all of this. Pippa, there's a lot of threads to pull on here. Let me start with oil and that drop in oil prices. Explain why.
Hey, Hallie. Well, oil fell about 5% today, and that builds on last week's decline, which was the worst week for oil since November. There are a couple of key factors here driving the weakness. The first, of course, is the talks between Russia and Ukraine. Then we also got COVID lockdowns in China. China is the world's largest oil importer, so any demand weakness out of China will hit prices. But it is important to contextualize oil's move. It is down sharply since the more than $130 it traded at last week. But it's also still well above where we started the year. We started the year at $75. So even though we have come down from those multi-year highs, we are still up sharply for 2022.
It's a good point. We just talked with our colleague about the lockdown in China, specifically in Shenzhen and other regions. That is obviously having an impact on some of these oil prices. Can you talk to me about the gas price issue and specifically what we saw in California? How big of a deal, Pippa, would it have been for the state to suspend the gas taxes? Like, does that mean your gas immediately becomes 51 cents cheaper? Could we see other states doing this?
Well, it's complicated. And, you know, higher gas taxes are a headache for officials at both the state and federal level. And it's contributing to inflationary pressures that we're seeing across the economy. The Biden administration has said multiple times they are trying to bring prices down. They've tapped the Strategic Petroleum Reserve 2 times. But, you know, prices are still elevated. We hit a record $4.33 on Friday. We're down about 1 cent since. And while experts do think that we will begin to trend lower to about $4.20, that's still more than $1.30 than we were paying last year. And so there are calls for suspension at both the state and federal level. But these are really hard to implement. They also provide key infrastructure funding. And then, of course, once you suspend a tax like this, it is really hard to re-implement it.
You took the words out of my mouth. Sure, you can take it off, right? But what about when you have to go put it back on? You know, the uproar then gets pretty intense. Pippa Stevens, it's great to see you from CNBC. Thanks, Pippa. Still ahead. How propaganda on Russian social media got boosted by conspiracy theories here in the U.S. and even some members of conservative media. We're going to get into that in our backstory after this quick break. A top Hollywood director apologizing just a few hours ago after major backlash over what she had to say about Venus and Serena Williams at an awards show last night. We're going to explain why and get into all of that a little bit later on. But first, it's time to get the backstory, our behind-the-scenes look at how a story comes together and how it fits into our bigger picture. Tonight, we're talking Russian disinformation, how it's spread and even embraced by conspiracy theorists and some in right-wing media. The day that the Russian invasion of Ukraine happened, this Twitter account that's now banned, that had been previously linked to QAnon, started spreading this disinformation about what you're seeing on screen, U.S. biolabs. Disinformation that was repeated by the far right. Tucker Carlson of Fox News led his show with this lie last week. Watch.
You mean secret biolabs? Like the secret biolabs Ukraine definitely doesn't have? Ukraine has those? Yes, it does.
The State Department confirmed about public health bio research in Ukraine. It's even on the embassy's website. But critics say Carlson and other right-wing media folks keep spreading the lie. The U.S. funded this bioweapons research in Ukraine, right? This is an effort that critics say plays right into Russia's hand. State-controlled media now using Carlson in their own disinformation campaign, and Putin using this lie to help justify the invasion of the country, something he had not mentioned until the conspiracy theories went wild. Ben Collins joins us now to tell us how he and his colleague, our colleague, Kevin Collier, managed to track this story basically back to its roots. So Ben, we know you've come on this show before and you've talked about disinformation and misinformation spreading online. It moves fast, right? Start from the beginning. Take us through your reporter's notebook, which I'm sure is online. But how did you find out where it came from? What was the origin of the story for you? I know you spent almost all of last week living in this.
Yeah, sure. So I talked to 2 very reliable data companies that sort of use the fire hoses of the far-right internet. They kind of scrape the back ends of these far-right websites, sites like Gab or Rumble or whatever, and they try to find out where narratives took hold and when they started to take hold. And both of them had these really jarring charts. One was from Signal Labs, the other one was from Pira, and both of them showed the same thing. This didn't exist. The biolabs in Ukraine conspiracy theory, this didn't exist until the day of the invasion. Straight up, people were talking about it, a couple posts a day, and then hundreds or thousands on the day of the invasion. And why is that? It's because of this chart that you see right here. It was from this QAnon account called War Clandestine that was taken off of Twitter because it was evading bans from QAnon. But what is the deal with that specific map, right?
Can we go back to that map?
Yeah, sure. Let's go back to that. So where did that come from? That's a really specific map, right?
Yeah, right.
What, U.S. biolabs in Ukraine. So if you look back through time to see where it came from an anti-vaxxer on Gab from 8 days prior, back when no one else was talking about biolabs in Ukraine. And that includes the Russians. The Russians were talking about this as a pretext to invade Ukraine. So that's how narrow this is. This is how small it was until they were looking for a secondary pretext to the invasion. Because what they realized is this denazification thing wasn't working in the United States. It wasn't working with their far-right partners all throughout the world. So the Russians started looking for a second thing, and they found it in a narrative pushed by English language media.
So to be clear, let me just make sure that I'm understanding this distinction, that our viewers get it too. There's public health research happening in Ukraine. It is not about secret biologically engineered weapons, right? That's kind of what this comes down to?
And it's also, they've made it even dumber, Hallie, the Russians, because they said that not only are they making these things, but they say it's targeting Russians specifically, and it's being flown over from birds from the labs to Russia and targeting Russians specifically.
Wait, I'm sorry.
So
Wait. Nope. Sorry. So birds, like animal birds, are flying weapons that have been biologically made in Ukraine, specifically over the border into Russia to infect Russians. That's this conspiracy theory.
That's the conspiracy theory. And if you are from the QAnon circles or the American circles, you get to involve all your favorite characters. For the last few years, they've been saying Vladimir Putin couldn't possibly be that bad of a guy. And now they're faced with all of these images of, children dying in the street, being shelled. Horror, true horror that you can't deny with your own eyes. But when you include the biolab stuff, all the bad guys from the past few years come back. Anthony Fauci, Hunter Biden, all of these people. You can start blaming the people you're comfortable blaming instead of, introducing a new bad guy that you were told was a good guy over the last few years.
So this is a ball of conspiracy yarn, Ben. How do you know where to start tugging, right? How do you unravel it when you have this information in front of you?
The good news with these websites is that they still allow you to scrape their data, and these companies exist to do that, right? So that's the really useful thing. The data doesn't lie here. It shows a really dramatic increase on the day of the invasion. So that's the really helpful thing. And then once you're there, you can use those elements from those big posts, the posts that went wild, the QAnon posts. You can say, like, where did that actual map come from? Where did that picture come from? You can go back in time using OSINT methods, like just reverse image search, stuff like that too, basic stuff, and you can try to find the first instance of that. That's the easiest way to find out where these narratives started, is use a lot of data and then work backwards from there.
One thing that I really appreciate about you, the many things that we appreciate about you here on the show, is that you have a great way of laying out, I think online, if folks don't follow you on Twitter, they should, laying out like what you're finding in your stories and how you get there. Do you ever get pushback from some of these conspiracy theorists who are living in this online world? Like, is Ben Collins a dreaded name in these? Are you like Voldemort in these circles when stuff comes out?
Yeah, man. I am all sorts of bad guy stuff in their spaces. They say I have there was like a term about my eyes that said I was like the devil because you could see it in my eyeball. It's kind of cool, to be honest with you. It's like, as a guy from Salem, Massachusetts, to be in league with the witches, it was an honor. Ben
Collins, man. Listen, you're doing yeoman's work out there. Thank you very much for living in the disinformation swamps and shining a light on some of this stuff. We appreciate it. Appreciate you. NBC News covers hundreds of stories every day. And because you couldn't possibly read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. From our West Coast Bureau, police in San Jose, California, are looking for a woman who stole a $4,000 bottle of cognac. So look at the security footage. She swipes the bottle. She goes behind the bar, she swipes it, and she leaves. Police are offering $1,500 for any tips leading to this, I don't know, call her a booze bandit, maybe. Out of our Northeast Bureau, an LGBTQ plus group marked in a Bronx St. Patrick's Day parade for the first time this weekend. Members say they're happy to be able to celebrate their immigrant history and heritage. The group was recently denied permission to march in a Staten Island parade, which refuses to allow any LGBTQ plus groups to participate. And from our Midwest Bureau, Jussie Smollett's former co-star, Taraji P. Henson, made comparisons to Emmett Till in her pleas for Smollett's release. On Instagram, she wrote, quote, Emmett Till was brutally beat and ultimately murdered because of a lie. No one was hurt or killed during Jussie's ordeal. Smollett was sentenced, remember, to 150 days in jail. Just within the past couple of hours, Jane Campion apologized for some of the things she said about Venus and Serena Williams in her acceptance speech when she won Best Director at last night's Critics' Choice Awards. Here's the backstory if you're not caught up on your Hollywood news. These are the comments that she later apologized for. Watch.
You know, Serena and Venus, you are such marvels. However, you do not play against the guys. Like I have to.
Yeah, the face says it all right there. Campion says she, quote, I made a thoughtless comment equating what I do with all that Serena and Venus Williams has achieved. I did not intend to devalue these two legendary black women and world-class athletes. Campion had been going viral, not in a good way, on social media before the apology. Actress Jodie Turner-Smith saying, Jane taking time out of her speech to tell two black women that she is more oppressed than them is peak white feminism. April Rain, founder of the Oscars So White hashtag, adding, Campion could have celebrated without tearing down. Steve Patterson joins me now. And Steve, you know, she was kind of everywhere on the internet, at least in like some of those Hollywood circles last night. Now we're seeing this apology, a full-throated walk back. It seemed to have rubbed people the wrong way because out of nowhere, she pointed to two legendary black women in the room and in the eyes of some basically, you know, tore them down, right? It seems like an apology would have been forthcoming based on some of the backlash that had built.
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, let's take a second in this age of social media to acknowledge that she did apologize quickly. She did, full walk back, right. Yeah, and in a way that I think many would say addressed the core issues of why the statement was so off in the first place. But man, Hallie, it was off. First, you can't ignore what she said was literally factually wrong. Both Venus and Serena have not only played against men at the highest level of competition in tennis, but they've won multiple mixed doubles titles against men. So right off the bat, that's wrong. Yeah.
Well, let me just also say, too, for people that aren't as up to speed on this, so she won for The Power of the Dog, which is her film. She was up against male directors. So if that was the context of which she was saying it, that she won against these men, she was bringing in Venus and Serena to say, you know, you don't play against men. As you point out, you know, that's not even true.
That's not even true. I'm glad you pointed out the context. But I think more to the point, to the figure of heart of what she was trying to say, saying that is even worse, because here you have these two black women from Compton in what is easily one of the richest, whitest sports on the planet. Let's just be frank. And just look at what they've done, not only for women with their legendary career performances, but being these incredible ambassadors for minorities, for motherhood, for mental health, and for women in general, in just the way that they carry themselves. So to single them out in a room full of what many would call Hollywood elites, even as a joke, and it was said as a joke, as you heard there, especially when waving the flag as a feminist and as an ally, I think was a bridge too far for a lot of people. And yes, for her career, I think something needed to be said. Hallie? It
was kind of viral whiplash, too, because she actually went viral in a good way for basically clapping back at Sam Elliott's criticism of her film, just like 24 hours before.
Yeah, you know, it's the age we live in, Hallie. The hero to villain is but a tweet or a statement away. But I think in this case, you have to say that the weight of the reaction is kind of linked to the inherent hypocrisy of the two statements back to back. In a vacuum, I think she would have gotten heat for saying what she did on stage was made worse, you know, by the fact that what was being championed and probably won a substantial following by the criticism that she defended from Elliott toward her film. So, you know, what I think, which we should all hope for, is not this tribalist win condition that she gets forever canceled and that her career is ruined, but that this ends up as kind of like a teachable moment for her, for Hollywood especially, and for whoever else, you know, about the fact that on a big stage, words matter. Hallie?
A teachable moment. You know, we like those here on the show. Steve Patterson, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
So Dolly Parton is declining her nomination to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Have you heard about this? Today on Twitter, she said, even though I'm extremely flattered and grateful to be nominated, Dolly said she doesn't feel she's earned that right. She says she hopes that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame will understand and be willing to consider her again if she's ever worthy. A lot of people may quibble with Dolly on her worthiness, man, because she's a country music legend. She has 11 Grammys, including the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, and she's already in the Country Music Hall of Fame. That happened in 1999. So have you seen the reaction to Tom Brady ending his 40-day retirement? Good news for Tampa Bay Bucks fans, and frankly, decent news for the NFL business, too. Fan gear retailer Fanatics said Brady is now the top-selling athlete across every sport. Top athlete in any sport. He sold more merch in the 2 hours after this announcement than in the week before. Brady says he realizes his place is, quote, still on the field and not in the stands, and says he has unfinished business. The guys who have to play against him, some of them surprised on social media. Arizona Cardinal Chandler Jones asking whether Brady was hacked, or LA Rams cornerback Jalen Ramsey saying thank you and throw that last touchdown on somebody else. Sam Brock has the breakdown for us. Sam, like, I think hashtag timing, because just a day ago, somebody paid $500,000 for the ball Brady touched in his last game. You know, 24 hours later, here we are. What else do we know about why he decided to unretire like this?
First of all, I would just say what a poor soul that shelled out $500,000 to get that football. Turns out it's not the last pass. But come on now, if you can spend $500,000 on a football, I don't feel that badly for you. That said, to your question, Hallie, about what's going on right now with Tom Brady. First of all, I mean, no one knows for sure, right? But he just had a season for the ages. At 44 years old, he threw for 5,316 yards and 43 touchdowns. That yardage total was the most in the NFL of any single quarterback. If you were that good and looking around and seeing what everybody else is doing, you wouldn't necessarily want to retire at the absolute pinnacle of your field.
Like,
and right
okay,
now,
Sam,
he's pretty close to that. The other component of this is his family.
I'm so sorry. I was going to say, because that stat was the same 40 days ago, right? You know what I mean? Like, that was still a factual reality 40 days ago.
Yeah.
So what's different? Do you think it's the family piece? I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
I do think it's listen, this is a back and forth. You can definitely interrupt me whenever you want. But yeah, no, absolutely. I do think the family has a certain role here in the sense that he had conversations about spending more time with loved ones. Look, when you're in Florida and your kids are away at school and Giselle is going off doing model things, whatever it is that she's doing, is someone who is so into their craft supposed to sit at home for hours on end and not get bored, especially when you've been that type A your entire life? I would argue no. But here's another factor that people aren't really talking about. Russell Wilson, who's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, just got traded out of the NFC. That is even less competition for Brady now in this conference. You have Aaron Rodgers, who couldn't get out of the first game of the divisional game this past playoffs. And then you have, obviously, Matthew Stafford and the LA Rams. They won the Super Bowl. Doing it twice in a row is pretty tough. Brady has a really good shot to get back to another Super Bowl again now that he's coming back.
This isn't just a big deal if you're like my folks do and my sister that living in the Tampa Bay area, right? You know, if you're a Bucs fan. It's a big deal if you're like in the NFL front office, I would think. And you're looking at this from a business perspective and looking at one of your, biggest name athletes coming back and putting on the uniform for another season. That's dollars talking, no?
Absolutely. If you look at the value of the Bucs since Brady got there, they went from about $2.2 billion to $2.9 billion, a massive jump in value. And for all of these other NFL teams where Brady's going to come and play in their stadiums, and we don't know if he's going to play 1 more year or 2 more years, whatever it may be. But every fan in that area that's going to want to see a football game will want to go and potentially see the last time that Tom Brady plays in that stadium. This is going to be a massive revenue boost. The only other thing that I would say, Hallie, unlike some of these other sports leagues, the NFL, it relies upon the shield. It's about the brand and the dynamic product on television. It's not like the NBA with Michael Jordan, where the league was really dependent on this one face and one star to generate eyeballs. The NFL is doing a great business right now, regardless of whether Tom Brady plays or doesn't. But having him on the team and in the league certainly makes a legitimate difference.
Sam Brock, outside this, looks like outside the stadium for us there. Sam, it's so good to see you. Thank you. And it's great to see you all. It's good to be back with you. That does it for us this hour. I'm glad you joined us. We're going to have a lot more here for you tomorrow. Same time, same place. Coverage picks up right now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.